Like, oh my god, guys. I'm over here at Garage Talks, and I see this thing right here that really does scare me. It scares me so much. It's called, I don't know if you ever heard about it, but it's called the Bill of Rights. Can you believe it? It has crazy things here, like the freedom of speech. I mean, your freedom of speech should be the exact same as my freedom of speech, which means if I don't agree with it, you shouldn't say it. That's the freedom of speech we all love and know. There's also the Second Amendment thing where it talks about guns. Who would ever need a gun? We need to trust the government for literally everything. The government has... No government ever in history has ever done anything wrong. Like, ever done anything wrong. Why do people need guns? Why do people need to be able to speak? There's a bunch of other stuff in this Bill of Rights too. Like that they can't search people's houses because I don't agree with them. What's going on with that? What is the country going to? Howdy. How's everything going tonight, people? Today, afternoon, evening, morning, whenever the fuck y'all are listening to this. So, episode 1 of Garage Talk. We call it Garage Talk because I'm in my garage and I am talking. So, A leads to B, B leads to C. So, let's start off every one of these with a salute to our soldiers, both here and overseas. Tremendous respect for you all. Thank you for doing what you do so that everybody here can do what we do here. So, what do we got going on tonight? Well, tonight we have the Bill of Rights, ratified by the states on December 15th of 1791. So I figured this was a great place to start off with because, like, roughly 74 million Americans believe our Constitution is one of the greatest documents ever written in human history. But very few people have actually read it or had it read to them, or what have you. So I think we're going to try and rectify that tonight with as many people as this does reach. Going to be doing a couple different segments here coming up. Going to start off with the first 10, probably the most important 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. You have to excuse me. Just had sinus surgery, so if you hear me hacking and coughing and all that awesome jazz, it's because I'm still bleeding a little bit back in the back of my throat. All fun stuff. Let me just assure you. So, disclaimer. I printed this off from www.archives.gov/legislature. That is www.archives.gov/legislature. That's LEGISLATIVE. And another little thing just to toss out there. I am not a constitutional scholar. That being said, I think that gives me a hand up on most people who talk about the Constitution in front of most people in the public. I believe I think it was Jefferson, said the Constitution was written, at least back in that time, so that the common man can understand it and interpret it. That means that there are no hidden statements, hidden words in there. It's plain speech back a couple hundred years ago, but it says what it meant and it means what it says. Just wanted to toss that out there for y'all. So, a little bit like story time, isn't it? Not training story hour, but like normal story time. Like, hey kids, hey kiddies, gather around the campfire we have over here and let's read something that will probably change your life. And if it does not change your life, at the very least, it'll make sure that you understand what life is about here. So we start off with the preamble. Congress of the United States begun and held at the city of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of a number of the states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of the public confidence in the government, will best ensure the beneficent ends of its institution. So, first thing I want to toss out in there, they don't give a number of states, because the Founding Fathers were highly intelligent men, way more intelligent than I am, probably a little bit smarter than you all are. They didn't know without a shadow of a doubt, but they probably suspected that this little slice of land that they had and they fought off the British for was probably going to grow. They had an inkling that this was a much bigger landmass than what they can see in their back fucking yards. So, instead of, because this, by the way, is a legal and binding document, one that every American born in America, or any American just in general, is rectified into as soon as they are born, and is what, contractually the government and we agree to. It's these rights we give to the government. It's not the government gives to us. There's a major difference there, and I do want to point that out. This right here, the entire Constitution, is not the rights bequeathed to us by almighty government. This is the rights that we say to the government, okay, we allow you to have. Major difference. Resolved by the, or paragraph 3, resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, and Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of these several states, as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all, or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. It might be chilly in here. So, we start off with Amendment 1, probably arguably the most important amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So, definitely a few things we need to do a deep dive into this guy right here. In layman's terms, means that the government cannot issue a national religion nor prohibit a religion of any kind from assembling at all. It's kind of a little bit religion heavy. I mean, it goes back to the right of the people to peaceably assemble. It doesn't say what for. It doesn't say you can assemble to buy groceries. It doesn't say you can assemble to party. It says you have the right to assemble. It doesn't say you have the right. It says that Congress shall make no law saying that you do not have the right to assemble. This is a natural human right. Once again, these are rights that the government did not give to us. I want to make that expressly clear. The government did not hand us down these rights like Santa Claus does on Christmas Day to little boys and girls all over the fucking country, all over the world. Like, oh, you're a good little boy. Here are your rights. No. These are rights that contractually we said, hey, the government, you have certain things that we bequeath to you. But we reserve these rights no matter what. These are the rights every American holds. Every human should hold. But for 100% certainty, every American should hold. We don't always. That's an issue, but we should. Talks about the freedom of the press. That's something else that has got a little bit murky during the past couple of years. I mean, could you ever imagine the press saying, hey, do not be informed. Listen to what I tell you. Do what I say. There's no reason to have a critical thinking session to think, hey, you know what? Maybe I should check this out by myself. See what it actually says. No. The press currently says, you must do what we tell you. We are the arbiters of knowledge. We are the arbiters of information. And only we can view this information, and then we deem what is or what is not acceptable for you, our peons, says the media, to understand or to learn about or to even hear about. Kind of an issue. Once again, the founding fathers were not perfect, but they were damn smart. Thankfully, we have several different alternative medias, alternative news sites that you can go and find stories that the legacy media deems not worthy for us peons down here to know about. Alright, definitely gonna do a deep dive on that. But let's move on. Amendment number 2. I would argue that this is probably the most important amendment. This amendment protects every single one of the amendments mentioned in the Bill of Rights and throughout the Constitution. This is what protects everybody in this country, and this is what should protect everybody in the world. Not every country is as free as ours. Hell, we're not even really that free anymore. But I digress. So, Amendment number 2. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I'm going to repeat that. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Let me break it to y'all. Once again, this is definitely another one we're going to have to take a deep dive into and really get to a bunch of different nuances that one short little sentence covers and that has been infringed upon. Once again, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Can you carry concealed, openly, or otherwise into a federal building? I'm pretty sure you can. How many signs are out there saying, oh no, you are not allowed to have a concealed weapon here? School grounds. Funded by me and you, the taxpayer. Something we built. We are not allowed to protect ourselves or our children at. Seems like that amendment's a little bit like Swiss cheese right now. If the current administration, as of 2020, 2021, if they have their way, that won't even be Swiss cheese. It'll just be powder. Blown away in the wind. Also talks about the militia. Well, the militia is me. The militia is you. If you are a U.S. citizen, the militia is every American. Every American has the duty to protect his country. If, for example, a foreign invasion was ongoing, every American has a duty to protect their country, their sovereignty, both personal and more broadly. You hear talks about militia right now all the time, just spouted pop, 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 pop in your ear from the news media, from the propaganda media. I think I'm going to start calling it the propaganda media from now on. You hear pop, 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 pop in your ear about militia. Lay down. In your ear all the time about militias. Oh, the militia's going to do this, the militia's going to do that. I'm sorry to disappoint you. The militia is everybody. Everybody who has a gun, which should be everybody, in my opinion. Every legal citizen of age should have a firearm to help protect themselves, their families, their property, and their country. You know, back in the 1700s, everybody had a gun because everybody was self-sufficient for the most part. I mean, you still had the little town dwellers, city dwellers, all those people who have money that has never had to actually go out there, harvest meat, go hunt for meat, has never processed meat, has never cured meat. They just go and drop a coin, or in today's terms, swipe a card, and that's how they get their hamburger. They've never actually hunted a deer, bagged it, field dressed it, brought it home, processed it, anything like that. Which is why the Second Amendment, for, once again, it's these big cities that are controlling most of that. Yeah, they have this population density that is up over the wall. Some people like to live cramped next to each other, smelling like sour fucking milk, all that bullshit. I don't, personally. I really don't. I like the smell of a fire. I don't mind gunshots going off around me when I'm out in the country. But you're like, you know what, that's a different topic. We will get into that later before I go off on this major goddamn tangent. So we're going to go down to Amendment number 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Once again, relatively basic. In times of peace, you cannot be forced to house soldiers in your house. Period. In times of war, there is an exception. They might pass legislature, they might pass laws to say, hey, you must quarter these soldiers while they're in your city because we might be fighting an invasion or something. But yeah, that part, I don't know. I think the world might have changed just a little bit more than. No, I take that. Take that back. You know what? That's still a pretty good amendment. In times of peace, you don't house a soldier in your house against your will. In times of war, your legislature will deem whether or not you will be forced to do it. I'm not smart enough to know all the situations that may or may not occur. I can see both positives and negatives. I can see both reasons to do and both reasons to deny or reject that. But I'm going to go with the Founding Fathers on that one. What? Might come a time when push comes to shove, you might need to just share your property, your house, your food with a soldier. Gets kind of into I don't really think it's anywhere near a communistic regime or anything like that to be forced to do that. But in today's day and age, temporary laws are never temporary. They tend to be more permanent than anything else. So that is something we must watch out for. Definitely worthy of a lengthy conversation about that. Amendment number 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue. But, upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Essentially, a cop can't just walk into your house and say, hey, heard you had a gun. Heard you had a gun. Man, you seem like a supporter of the regime that we are not currently under at this moment. I I get an incentive for taking people like you, especially if you have a gun, because we can qualify you as a terrorist. You got a gun? Let me search your house. That's what's supposed to prevent. That's what it is supposed to prevent. Now, corruption, because men, you know what? You find me a pure human being, I will give you a bar of gold. Solid gold, whatever carat you want, I will give you that bar of gold. I'm confident in saying that because you're not going to find one. Man is indelibly corrupt. Look at yourself. Have you ever done anything that you shouldn't have? You know why? Let me ask you this. How many times have you not returned your shopping cart to the grocery store little kiosk thing? I'm willing to bet you've done it at least once. How many times have you gone a little bit over the speed limit? Yeah, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No way in hell am I perfect. But that's one way it could be corrupted. Another thing to be put about that, red flag laws go totally against that. A red flag law, essentially, from what I understand, is, hey, your neighbor doesn't like you. He knows you had a gun because he saw you taking a gun case to the range a month ago, and you mowed his grass just a little bit on his side of the property. You didn't mean to. You're turning your mower around, and they're like, oh my God, he fucking did that. You know what? Lay down. Go lay down. So, now, you call the cops. So he's a domestic terrorist because he has a gun. And as some psychiatrists say, the reason to own a gun, you should not have the reason if you're mentally defective. And the fact that you want to own a gun means that you are mentally defective because you're paranoid. You think, wow, the government might overstep to the point where you need to defend yourself. I mean, we have all these people in authority telling us that, well, you know what? If somebody breaks into your house, let them do whatever they want. If he has a gun and you don't, that means he'll take what he wants. Whether that is your TV, your Xbox, PlayStation, jewelry, your wife, your daughter's virginity, your underage daughter's virginity. As long as he has a gun, that means that there's less likelihood of violence. But if you both have a gun, chances are somebody's going to end up dead. I say, you know what? I know who I want to end up dead. It's not my family. It's not that I think if you're stealing, you deserve the death penalty. But I think if you've taken that risk to burglarize a house, then you've given up your right to life. At that point, you cannot blame anybody who defends themselves, their property, as pursuant to the Constitution. But, once again, that is a longer conversation for a different time. Wee bit chilly in here, y'all. Alright. So, I believe we are at Amendment number 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Bit lengthy. Once again, I think we're going to do a deep dive into every one of these and just do a solid episode committed to just each one of these first 10 amendments. But in layman's terms, as an American citizen, you can't just be thrown in jail. Any capital or infamous crime, definitely need to research that a little bit from what they meant in that context back in the day. Without a grand jury being presented evidence and saying, yeah, we think he is guilty of that, therefore arrest his ass. There are exceptions. For example, military tribunals, military courts. Honestly, never served. I'm not quite sure what they call them. But when you're in the military or a militia, an actual service of the militia or the naval forces, laws get a little bit more hazy there that I cannot express to you because I have never dealt with it. I'm not quite sure what, but once again, we'll do a deep dive into this later, do some research on it to see what that actually means. Double jeopardy. You know, you can't be tried for the same thing over and over and over again. Because guess what? Let me tell you. Federal government has more money than almost anybody here watching this put together. You know why? Because they take your money. They steal your money. Taxes. So, hell, even if they are suing you, you know, you keep paying them to sue you. So, if they miss their first shot, kind of over and done with. Cannot bear witness against himself, Miranda rights, that kind of thing. You know, you have the right to plead. Actually, it's the right to plead the fifth. Perjury law, something that I'm honestly not really all that familiar with because, hey, not a lawyer here. But once again, this was wrote to be understandable by the common man back in this time. So you get into some kind of hazy stuff with perjury law. But at the same time, you can always plead the fifth. Now, there is some negative connotations with pleading the fifth. They ask you the question. You say, I'd like to plead the fifth. Then that gives you a negative connotation of you're guilty of it, and you don't want to say that you're guilty of it, which is why you're pleading the fifth. Not necessarily right or wrong. Not 100% sure about that, to be 100% honest. Once again, this is Garage Talk. We're not lawyers here. We just talk. I mean, fuck, I'm a construction worker. Not a lawyer. Last part of that, private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. Eminent domain, I think, totally violates that. Eminent domain, from what I understand, is where the government can say, actually, it's usually not even the government. It's usually a private corporation talking to somebody that they paid off in the government. Allegedly paid off in the government. And they say, well, if we buy up this entire town, or this little block right here, you know, we can build a shopping mall that'll raise more revenue for the state. So we eminent domain their asses out of there, and we didn't actually do anything with it, but we still got it over eminent domain. Once again, not 100% super familiar with that. I feel like the last 4 or 5 amendments, most people aren't really familiar with that, so we will definitely pay more attention to that when we go down in depth and detail. Alright, amendment number 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory processes for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. A little bit of a mouthful, but still. Essentially, they can't just hold you in jail indefinitely without a trial. Patriot Act screws that all up, I do believe. Once again, that's something else we'll take a look into in the future episodes, but as an American citizen, if you're a resident here in country, city, state, I don't care where it is, what you did. If you're a Florida native and you go to Tennessee and you hold up a bank, they have the right to arrest you and try you in that area by a jury of your peers. Which, in this case, would not actually be your peers, I believe. I might be butchering some of that stuff. Law gets so fucking complicated. Fuck lawyers. But anyway, you have the right to a public and speedy trial. That way they can't just shove a bunch of bullshit down, pay off a jury. Like, wow, turns out that he didn't actually do anything that he's accused of, but everybody said they agree with that. Kind of gives you a check and balance upon that, I do believe. Also, right to a counsel. It essentially gets down to Miranda rights. We'll do a dive into Miranda rights in the future. So definitely think that is something else that we should all take a look into. Because, I mean, movies, fuck the media. They lie to you all the time. It says that there was a violent armed insurrection on January. I don't think it really was, but what have you, what your opinion is, it is free to have by you. I have my own opinion. But I digress. Let's go to Amendment number 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any courts of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. So, a couple things in there, something really we need to touch on, and once again, another segment devoted especially to this common law. Common law is based off of English common law. That's where we kind of did found our whole entire way of life around the English. Because guess what? When we did, we were English. We were originally English citizens, Englishmen, English women, English babies, English dogs, English setters. But yeah, so definitely do need to have a big deep dive into the English common law, which is what we based a bunch of our stuff off of. Also need to find out the controversy of $20. I don't know if that's changed or not, but I kind of have a feeling it does, because $20 back in 1791, probably buy a cow. Maybe buy a cow. $20 today, I mean, under the current administration, you can't even hardly buy a gallon of gas. So money has definitely inflated to the point where $20 back then is not the same as $20 now. So I do not know if that's gone up or down. This will be a learning experience for all of us. But also it says you have the right to a jury, and once you've been tried, you can't be tried again. Essentially kind of like a double jeopardy kind of thing. Unless, of course, according to common law, which, full disclosure, once again, not 100% sure of what that all entails. That's something that we do need to look into. All of us together. Yeah. So, moving on. Amendment number 8. Excessive bail shall not be required for excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. So, cruel and unusual kind of differs with the times. What you think cruel now is not being able to bathe and brush your teeth. What they thought cruel back in 1791 was drawn and quartered. Things do change. Not saying that's always a bad thing, but we do have to re-examine and see exactly what's going on from time to time and get into some more of that. Excessive bail is one that I've seen cropped up a few times here recently. For example, Rittenhouse. I believe the prosecuting lawyer tried to argue because Rittenhouse did not actually pay the whole, what is it, $2 million, $3 million bail for a 19-year-old who defended his life from a violent mob after putting out fires, after stopping arsonists from blowing up a gas station, after he was attacked, shot at, all this other kind of stuff. He defended himself. They put his high-ass bail, but he crowdsourced it a couple of times because, well, mainstream stuff doesn't really look on to people who have a common sense in their head, decent brain between their ears, anything like that. But that is one thing that we should probably take a look on. Probably going to be more opinion versus fact on that one. You have the Rittenhouse thing, and you also have the BLM thing. You know, the riots of 2020, the 1619 riots. Fuck you, Robin DiAngelo. Excuse me. Sneeze there. Where you had the current administration's vice president, allegedly, out there helping to support and to fund, these bail funds for these violent rioters and murderers. Now, that was not considered excessive. And also, once the current administration did take power from the previous administration, yeah, they let all those people go. So, I mean, bail at that point, but they just dismiss all charges because the terrorists that helped people get into a particular elected office said, well, you know what, you helped me get in here, so I will let you go free and clear, walk the line if you can. If you can't, we'll just let you go again. You've only been arrested 14 or 15 dozen times for burning down the same goddamn police station, the same motherfucking mall, same fucking house. But yeah, we'll let you go. We don't think you'll do it a 17th or 18th time. Definitely not a 30th time. At most 50. We'll cut it at 50. Unless you get over 50, in which case, fuck it, we might not. Who cares? You have to get into power, so we owe you. Excuse me for that tangent. Amendment number 9. Moving on here. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed or denied, shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Essentially, the rights that we, the governed, give you, the government, well, those are the rights that you have. You cannot misinterpret something from what we have here to mean something else. Doesn't really fucking work that much anymore. But, in essence, once again, this was written so that the common man can read and understand it. So you don't need a fucking lawyer to say, hey, you know what? We can twist this word around, twist that word around. We get some pansy-ass fucking judge up in the higher courts that says, you know what? They helped me get elected, and then they put me in here, so we'll just do whatever they want. Yeah, we'll change the definition of this word. Yeah, essentially, the Constitution says what rights that the government cannot take away. It also says that you cannot add or remove any rights. It says that these are the rights of the American people. These should be the rights of every person in the world. But these are definitely our rights. We've signed this contract with you. We are embedded into it from our birth until our death. Definitely something we will take a deep, long, hard look into. So, finish up with Amendment number 10. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Pretty similar to number 9, in my opinion. What we say the Constitution, the government, the federal government can do, is what you can do. Do not misinterpret that. Do not reinterpret that. Do not lie about it. Do not fucking change it.
anything we say, this is what we say you're allowed to do. It doesn't say what you are not allowed to do. It says that literally anything that we do not give you express permission to do, you're not allowed to fucking do. So stop it. Stop it. Bad, bad, bad. Stop. Bad government. I'm not talking to you, baby. Oh. I just upset my dog. Because of you. The federal government. Fuck you. So yeah, essentially, so anything that we say that the federal government can do is expressed in this Constitution. What you can't do is everything except for what we say you can do. Everything else is reserved to the state that you reside in. And if not expressly presented to the states, it is reserved for the people. So that is something that will probably take an episode or two to go through right there. You know, I have disagreements with California's gun laws. But to be honest, I can't raise a voice. I don't live in California. The state says, hey, you know what? We want to ban every single fucking gun because we're a bunch of little Nancy's, so... You know what? It is the state's right. Need a better interpretation from somebody besides myself about that, to be honest, because it is expressed in the federal Constitution that, hey, you do have the right to... You know what? Talking through that, thinking through that. See, every time I read this, I come away with a different point of view. It's more solidified in the actual Constitution itself. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited it. I can't even fucking say that word for some reason. By it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. I do think that Second Amendment overrules the 10th Amendment. Right to keep and bear arms. There's a reason for that. Once again, that is something we definitely will take a deeper look into. I have a couple of people in here to give some opposing and concurring opinions with. Yeah. And in closing, find yourself just the Bill of Rights. Because I feel like with just the Bill of Rights just the Bill of Rights alone, no matter what happens, if we stick to it, this country would never fall into such decay as it has. I mean, I'm talking about both Democrats and Republicans. So, I mean, if you take a step back, I don't care if you're a Trumper, if you're a pedophile, whatever they call it, pedophiles like Biden now, supporters of Biden, Biden file. I like Biden files. Take a step back, with few exceptions, Trump being one, because motherfucker was just too bombastic to be held down. But like Bush, you know, fucking Clinton, like, take a step back, they all do the exact same thing, just to a lesser degree on one side or the other. I want to say, maybe not your local representatives, maybe not even your state representatives, but your federal representatives, they've been in Congress for more than, I don't know, a term. They're 100% with getting rid of your Second Amendment right, your First Amendment right. Because they get to draw these little districts, which means that they will almost never lose re-election. Look at Pelosi, look at McConnell. Two biggest things. You look at them, you take a step back, you look at what they vote for. Essentially, it's the same fucking thing. They don't respect you. They detest you. They dislike you. They hate you. They don't want you empowered. Because, you know, smashed down, you're so much easier to control than if you are empowered. And I want you to take that away. Let that sink into your mind. Depressed, you can do nothing. Empowered, almost anything's on the table. Now that could be a good or a bad thing. I mean, hell, look, BLM was empowered for the entire summer. We got $2 billion plus I mean, that's the low estimate. 19 deaths. Shit does happen. I really do wish more people would have stood up to them. That being said, not my state, not my county, not my area, not my problem. If that's what you want, if that's what you want to live around, go for it, buddy, man. Vote in the Antifa mayor in Portland. Go do all that shit. I don't care. You're in Portland. Just do me a favor. Don't ask my state for money. Don't ask Texas for money. Don't ask Florida. Don't ask any well-governed state for money because we're not gonna pay it. Also, I think I'm gonna end every conversation, no matter what, this way. Federal government, you are too big. Fuck yourself and shrink up. Well, this has been Jason with Garage Talk, episode 1, I guess you would call it. Now, if you want to contact me, let me know anything I said that was incorrect, misunderstood, or literally just want to say, hey, you're a fucking asshole. Please do. Email me at patriotpress@protonmail.com. That is PATRIOTPRESS at protonmail. That's PROTON mail MAIL.com. And yeah, look forward to hearing you, seeing you, and telling you that well, your opinion doesn't mean a whole lot to me, but if it's informative, hey, I might learn something from it, and you might learn something from it, like you might have done with this little podcast thingy right here. Well, enough of it. So yeah, have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or good night. Take care, America.